It's a great win for our program, our team. Miami coming into this season had 8, 9 returning starters on each of the sides of the ball, and very experienced football team. They were hit by injuries a little bit last year, and again this year a little bit. But in saying that, they're still a very, very good football team, and so it was an excellent win for us, and put us, I won't say in the driver's seat in terms of the East Division, but it gives us a chance to continue to work at controlling our own destiny if we can continue to win. So it was a very important football game for a lot of reasons. Proud of our guys, the energy that they had in the game. They played fast. I thought our legs seemed fresh. We seemed to get some bumps and bruises healed up in the extra days that we had for that game. And so I thought we went into it with a great frame of mind, and they played good football. So we're on to the next one now.
Coach, talk about moving on to the next one. Will you watch the Toledo NIU game tonight, and how do you approach those midweek games in that sense where you can watch them?
Is that game a 6 o'clock or an 8 o'clock?
I believe it's a 7:30, but I may be wrong.
Nobody knows in here?
Do you know?
I thought it was 7 o'clock start.
Okay. Well, I probably won't see the beginning of the game if it's 7 o'clock
Nope,
start.
6 o'clock.
6 o'clock. Well,
6 o'clock, there you go.
that'll be a struggle probably to see the beginning of the game. We'll be working, but we'll tape it, and we'll get obviously the feed of the game. We're watching a lot of what Toledo does now on tape, and so yesterday we gave the players off. Today we give the players off, except they're coming in for meetings today, and after meetings they'll have off, so they'll be able to rest up again for a couple days, and then take the same approach we took last week. Start off then tomorrow with what would be a Monday for us, and that type of a practice, and just go through the regular work week that way.
Coach, Logan Woodside is one of the best quarterbacks in the MAC, so what do you guys have to do to slow him down on next Wednesday?
Well, there hasn't been much slowing them down up to this point, and in fact, if you look at a lot of their scores, and you look at what all's been happening with their football team, I think they're a pretty rested football team going into this game, because they've played their second team backup guys quite a bit as they've gone through the season with the huge wins that they've had. So, and you look at the number of throws that as good a passing team as they are, they haven't thrown the ball a ton. And but again, that's because probably they haven't had to throw the ball in the second half. They've been so far ahead, and so it's those stats are kind of lopsided there a little bit in regards to what they really mean. And but he, we know from just his career in the MAC that he's a great quarterback. Very poised in the pocket, can hurt you running the ball. He's got the kind of arm that can make every throw that you need to make in the game of football, and so he's a legitimate big time threat. He has excellent receivers. They've got big linemen that are experienced. They got themselves an excellent football team.
And what kind of stress is that going to put on your guys' secondary, the corners and the safeties especially, just trying to slow that down and get the ball back in the hands of your offense?
Yeah. Well, I think, again, they have very good running backs, and they've got a big, strong offensive line that can move people around. So they'll run the football, and they run it very, very well. So I think you still got to start with that. You can't – they're going to throw. They're going to complete some throws. You just – can't let them get to where they're two-dimensional and just destroy you that way. So we'll keep our same approach to stopping people. but we're going to have to play really well in the secondary and with our linebackers, and there's no question about it, to stop the passing game. And we're going to have to be able to get some pressure on him, get some sacks. But, he handles pressure very well. He's not one of those guys that when he sees pressure coming or has all the buzz around him from pressure, that just gets rid of the ball. I mean, he will sit in there the last second. He will make the throw and take the hit if he has to, but he hasn't had to take too many hits so far. But they got a complete offense. And so trying to stop them totally, I don't know that anybody has done that. So, you're just going to have to play well and stop the run and then look at ways to not allow them to make the big and explosive play on you in the passing or running game, actually.
Coach, last year you guys beat Toledo, but you didn't have, as good as an offense as you do now. What's it like going up against Toledo this year? You guys have, one of the top offenses in the MAC along with Toledo too.
Mm-hmm. Well, we've had success with our offense in terms of putting points on the board. I think that's going to have to continue to be the case this week, because to think that you're going to just shut them out or slow them down is not probably very realistic. And so we're going to have to take advantage of every drive. We're going to have to establish field position. That's going to have to be critical. We can't stall ourselves out on drives. We're going to have to try to make some explosive plays along the way to try to get some quick scores. But we're going to have a game where we're just not counting on something special happening. We're going to have to get first downs after first downs after first downs, control the ball some, and not put our defense back on the field immediately. We're going to have to really play well in special teams. I like our special teams. I think we can play with anybody in terms of our special teams units, and so that's going to have to show in this game. It's going to have to be a plus for us.
Yeah, you talk about, starting early, getting scores early. That was something you did against Miami. I guess, what do you think you can take from the Miami game, because you guys were able to get off to such a good start?
Well, we can take from that you got to play 4 quarters. They came back, and as a coach, I knew that, and was marching up and down the sideline telling our guys, hey, it's 14-0, 2 quick scores. Hey, this is going to be a game, and they're going to mount drives. They're going to get some things done here. So hang in there, just keep playing football, and don't be patting yourself on the back too much for getting a 14-0 lead. Although that's what you're after, you know that there's a lot of football to be played when you get that kind of a lead early.
I don't have the count off the top of my head, but just some of the play calls from the Miami game, you had at least one flea flicker. You had the play that mirrored the Purdue play. There was a direct snap to AJ. What sort of lent itself in that game to you sort of opening up the playbook a little bit and using some trickery?
Yeah. We like those special kind of plays. We don't always use them in a game, but we always have the availability of using them. And depending upon a little bit how the game's going and getting yourself in good position to give yourself the best chance of having success with a play like that. Sometimes it comes to down and distance. Sometimes it comes into play field position as to whether or not it's a good time to call the play. So you may not run into the right situation in order to use it. This game just so happened that there was a lot of opportunities to use them in terms of down and distance and field position. So, but we have plays like that obviously for every game. I like them. I think they're a huge part of the game. If you can pick up a first down that way, if you can get a touchdown that way, if you can get an explosive play that way, that's huge in momentum. And so they can cause momentum swings and shifts if you're able to execute them well. And so there's a place and time for them, and we try to pick that place and time, but we do have them for every game.
Is there any update on Julian Ross or maybe anybody else that's been sort of in and out recently?
I think Julian's still maybe a week away.
I asked this question because obviously you want to win every game, try to win every game, but given that it's an out-of-division game, it doesn't really affect the approach for Akron the week after, if you get what I'm saying. If you win on Wednesday, you still need to beat Akron. If you lose on Wednesday, you still need to beat Akron to win your division. Does that, I don't know, is that freeing? Does that let you guys approach the game with a little bit of a slightly altered mindset because it's not a do or die game in terms of winning the division, even though it is potentially a first place against first place matchup?
No. You've got to prepare to win every single ball game, and that's always been our approach. If you don't approach it that way as a coach, that soon becomes apparent to your players, and if that ever becomes apparent to your players, then you're on your way to losing them. If in terms of coaching, if you ever approach a game and don't play it to win and play your very best and be prepared, then it's probably time to get out of coaching. And so I don't think there's many coaches out there that, you have 12 to 13 to 14 opportunities. You don't want to waste any of those opportunities. That's not a lot of football games, and we let our football players know that and understand that. You only get a chance to be on the playing field in a game situation 12 times. If you do it well enough, you're on it. In our league, you're on it 13 times. And that usually means if you're on it 13 times, you're on it 14 times in a bowl game. You don't want to let any of those slide by. They're all important. You got to prepare to play every single one of them. It's the toughest thing to do in sports, I believe, is to get yourself and a team ready to play 14 games. As easy as it may sound, only 14 games. There's so many things that go into playing well and winning football games, and certainly part of it is having yourself ready to play the game mentally, emotionally, 14 times. And it's very, very difficult to do, to keep yourself at that high level that you need to keep yourself at to play great football.
You guys will have a couple extra days preparation. You're, I think, probably using that to rest your guys. Is that a huge advantage, or is that something that folks like us tend to make too big of a deal out of?
I don't know. I think if you go back and you look at what has happened to teams that have had bye weeks or the extra time versus teams that have had short weeks, sometimes it doesn't play itself out the way you think that it will. Sometimes it's good just to line up again and play it fairly quickly, unless you're a team that needs the extra days to get healthy and get your team shaped up that way. But in saying that, if you have your choice, you probably want the few extra days versus the short week. And everybody in the MAC at some point in time gets short weeks, and so you just got to understand how to handle them, and don't let that defeat you mentally. And if you don't let it defeat you mentally, you're probably going to be okay and can play good football either way.
Coach, last year Dorian Brown had 212 rushing yards against Toledo. I know you're excited to get AJ back this year for Toledo, but how big will he be? Will you incorporate Dorian more into the game plan?
Well, he had a great game against them, obviously, but our running backs all are capable of having great games, and so we'll kind of keep our rotation going. It's kept them to this point healthy for the most part, rotating the way we have been. Obviously, if one guy is really hot and really playing well, and then we'll go with that guy and break the rotation some. But I expect that both backs will play a lot. Last year's success doesn't equate necessarily to this year being successful in the running game like that. So far, if you look at their stats, it shows that it's going to be tough for any back to have that kind of a day. But in saying that, I like our offensive line. I like our running backs. We're throwing the ball pretty well right now. We're catching it pretty well right now. So I think we have a complete offense. We're not going to rely on just one phase of the game to win it for us. We're going to, obviously try to run the football, but we're going to mix it up and see where that leads us.
Some people might say this is the clash of the MAC East-West. That isn't the MAC championship game if Toledo wins tonight. What's the importance of having that game played at home?
Well, I think it's real important, especially if you have fans turn out for it, and it becomes a great atmosphere. And this last ball game, it was great. Appreciate all that the people of the Athens area that showed. I'm sure we had a few from the Columbus area and surrounding areas, even though it was as late a start as it was, an 8 o'clock start, which made it difficult to attract people from out of the area. But in saying that, I thought there was a good crowd. And so appreciate what they were all about. We're hoping that same atmosphere is existing for this game. I thought our student body was exceptional in terms of their turnout for the game. I don't know that I probably have seen it before, maybe early on, but it seemed like 2/3 of the stands over there were filled with students, and that's a tremendous turnout, especially during the week, a midweek game. So, I want them to know that we as a coaching staff, the players, really appreciated the support that everybody that came showed last week, and we're hoping that stays with us.
You guys had really good passing attack on Tuesday night. Nathan threw for a career high in yards. What does that do for your offense, just to open up the playbook a little bit when you're able to, throw for 294 yards after having the previous two games where you rushed for 335 and 336?
Well, I think Miami, number one, showed that they were going to work at stopping the running game, and they supported the safeties pretty quick out of a lot of formations, and so that leads you to using your receivers, who I think are good, explosive receivers. I like to get them in one-on-one matchups, and it gives you a chance. And so our receivers have got really good speed. We're not 6'4", 6'5", but we do have great quickness. We do have excellent speed, and so the 6'4", 6'5" guy that maybe doesn't have quite as much speed is a real threat down in the red zone. They're real threats on back shoulder throws out on the field. But a lot of times the 6'5" guy isn't going to run by you. If he does, then he probably ought to skip his senior year and go to the pros. and so our receivers, in lacking the height, got great speed, great quickness. And we're capable of getting deep on things, and so, that's where, when you're one-on-one with the wide guys, there's where you have your opportunities in the passing game. In saying that, I still think that Nathan had a very good game, both running and throwing, and I think we had one drop in the game. Had another one that we had it in both hands, but it was broken up as soon as he did catch it, so you could call it 2 drops if you want. When we throw the ball 33 times, you'd like to get through the game without any drops. 1 drop is probably one too many, as in a coach's mind. But in saying that, they made a lot of excellent catches and a lot of really good throws. So having the ability to do both, run and throw, is critical. And sometimes, obviously, doing one really well helps the other. And I think us running the ball for as long as we have been running it, as well as we have, that is starting to show that it's helping our passing game right now.
And you mentioned deep passes like that. Well, Brendan was one of the guys who caught one of those deep touchdown passes. You know, he's been kind of nagging injuries all year. So what was it like to see him get back and see the unit kind of be fully healthy that's together again?
Yeah. You know, he's been playing hurt. Cameron's been playing hurt some. Obviously, Poppy missed some games. Jared Mahefka has been out for quite a while, came back and contributed in this last game. So I think we're certainly a lot closer to full speed at the receiver position, you know, and so that we're hoping will be of help to us.
Coach, just going more so on the drops that you mentioned, you know, I know before the week, like before this past week, you mentioned that drops were going to need to be improved, that you're going to need to have less drops. What was it like just seeing that improvement this week against Miami?
Well, you know, whenever you talk to your team about something or your position about something, and you see it come into play like it did this past game, as far as really a number of drops, you know, that's what you look for. You know, your players respond, and you know, it doesn't always happen that way, but these guys they've got that kind of mindset. You know, when we identify things that we're not doing well, they really work at improving, and you know, that's a sign of a good team. You know, the other area, you know, the turnovers. You know, we were on the negative side of it, -1, I think, in the turnovers going into this last game. You know, the 2 games we lost, turnovers were huge in both of those, and we had a mindset of winning the turnover battle, and we've been able to do that here as of late, and that's helped us get on a little bit of a winning streak here. You know, we have now worked our way up into the plus category. I think I mentioned last week to you guys we were the only team with a winning record that had a negative turnover margin in the MAC last week, and now we're out of that. You know, we're on the plus side of the margin for the year, and Toledo actually happens to lead the MAC right now with a +4, I believe it is. And guess what? Northern Illinois, who's playing them for the divisional title, is +3. They're next in line. And guess what? Akron's behind them, who's right with us in the lead on in the East Division. You know, turnovers are so huge, and so pay a lot of attention to that, and we work on it. And you know, it's starting to get better for us and starting to show some progress there.
Yeah, going off of that, you talk about, you know, going up against Toledo, you guys obviously can't make a whole lot of mistakes. How much are you know, not committing the ball? I mean, committing a lot of turnovers is going to be important for this game.
Well, yeah, both sides of it have got to play out well for us. You know, it's probably not going to work if we get 3 turnovers and they get 5. You know, and so you want to be a +2 in the turnover ratio as a minimum in a ball game. That's what you shoot for. We'd like it to be 2-0. You know, if it's 1-3 and it's in our favor, we'll live with it. You know, it's acceptable. But when you play a team like Toledo, you got to get to where, you know, you're not giving up much, because they don't give up much, and so it's not going to be a deal that you can say, well, hey, if we give up 3 turnovers, maybe they'll give up 4. It's probably not going to work that way, you know. So you got to go in with the idea of taking great care of the ball, not giving up any turnovers, and then trying to find a way to get a few from them, whether it's through the air or on the ground.
I'll put you in a second, Pete. Since all this talk about turnovers, you had 4 against Central Michigan. Since that point, it really seems like Nathan Rourke has either by design or just the way he's gauging plays, has really cut down on his scramble opportunities. How well is he now handling that decision about when to escape the pocket to run, to when to escape the pocket but keep his eyes downfield? How has that maturity or that development come for a guy who's like everyone knows is starting for the first time at this level?
Yeah. Well, I think how your offensive line plays determines how much you're going to scramble and what kind of scrambles they're going to be. We did not have a sack in this last ball game against us, and that's huge. That means that there probably wasn't a lot of buzz around him. You know, the thing that I like about Nathan is he can sit in the pocket with a lot of activity around him, even with blitzing going on, and he knows the schemes in terms of, you know, are we a man short on this, or we have a guy for everybody, and if everybody does their jobs, I'm going to have a few moments extra to get the ball off, and so he's really very good at knowing that and not letting any of that surrounding him bother him. In saying that, he's instinctive to where all of a sudden, if he has a feel like, hey, this ain't working, he will improvise, and I am fine with him improvising. You know, I don't think at this point anything that he's done has indicated to us that we need to talk to him about, hey, doing something different. You know, I think he has good instincts. He understands things well. He scrambles when he should scramble. When he needs to stay in the pocket and deliver the ball, he'll do it.
Oh no, we need a relay.
Yeah, we do
And we
need
need 2 mics.
Coach, real quick about the defense. Is there any concern that they didn't exactly get stops at certain times when maybe on those third downs where you would have liked them to get some stops?
Yeah, you'd like that, but you look at the stats overall, we didn't pick up some first downs when I'd like our offense to pick up some first downs. And so it goes both ways, and it usually goes both ways in all games. You know, you're not going to pick up every third down, you know, and in fact, if you are 40% or higher, you're doing a good job in picking up. And if you hold them below 40% on the defensive end of it, you're doing a pretty good job, you know. And so, you know, it's going to happen in games. You're just not going to be able to every drive keep picking up first downs, or every time the opponent has the ball, keep them from picking up some first downs. It's going to happen. You know, you just want to make sure that you, if they're picking up first down after first down after first down, then eventually don't convert that by getting into the red zone. And I think if you look, we've done a pretty good job of not allowing guys in the red zone too much. We've beaten guys in terms of number of times we're in the red zone in a game versus the number of time the opponent's in our red zone during the game. And if you can win that battle, getting in the red zone more than your opponent, and especially if that's substantial, and then in doing that, you convert scores into touchdowns and not field goals, or you're getting some points on the board, then you're winning. You're going to win.
All-time Logan Woodside is 25-7. I know you're focused on
Do
your.
that again, the all-time.
He's all-time as a quarterback. He's 25-7.
Mhm.
He's 7-1 this year. I know you're focused on your team, but are there any things about Woodside that you've picked up through watching him?
Well, we picked up that he's really good.
Right, but yeah.
No, I understand your question, I think, and you know, and that's exactly right. He is really good. You know, when you're really good at the quarterback position, and you have people surrounding you that are good, you're going to be able to be 25-7. You know, you're going to be able to have that kind of a career, and he's really talented, and you know, he's smart. He knows their offense. You can tell. You know, he's gone to the right receivers all the time. He's got quality receivers he's thrown to. So you're faced with a quarterback that's special, and you know, the thing that we feel a little bit good about is that, you know, at that same position, we're playing pretty well now too. And so, you know, that's going to help us in terms of trying to get some things done and putting points on the board. Will they put points on the board? Yeah. You know, that's what they do.
Last thing for me, what are your thoughts on Maine Williams' contributions to the secondary this year? Not as a player, but as just trying to help D'Angelo coach that secondary.
Yeah, yeah. You know, he's doing a great job. He's got a lot of respect from both the players and the coaches, and so his help out there is really appreciated. You know, he's I think if he decides to go into the coaching profession, he'll be really, really good at it. It was a tough loss to, not have him with us this year because of injury, but and he would have been a great player. I mean, he's a special athlete: size, speed, toughness, smart. You don't like to have too many of those guys not stay with you for one reason or another, you know, in terms of playing. But we like what he's all about. He's really respected, and so he's a plus for us.